Batman in space? That's not gonna be good. Today we're looking at issue 1 of Batman Off-World by Jason Aaron and Doug Mahnke. And I know I'm a little bit behind, I know this issue came out a little while ago, but listen, I don't love most of what DC Comics is doing in general right now, and it is really, really easy to mess up Batman. You know how many bad Batman stories I've read where the writer just has a fundamental misunderstanding of who the character is? Batman is not just some bare-knuckle thug who likes beating people up, and he's also not just some edgelord who's dark and shadowy and sad all the time and that's all he can ever be. He's a detective. He's a highly skilled, highly motivated detective. And I've read way too many Batman comics where they just leave out the entire detective aspect of Batman. And that is so boring to read. And with Batman being off-world in this series, I was pretty hesitant to buy it because I can't imagine what kind of detective work he's going to be doing in the grim, gritty streets of Jupiter. But everybody was talking about it all over the internet and everybody was asking me if I've read it yet, so I bought it. And it's all pretty good. Jason Aaron has written some really good stuff in the past, and I'm pretty sure this is the first time he's done anything for DC. And it kind of seems like he's just been waiting for the chance to use some of these ideas, because he has a pretty solid idea of who Batman is as a character. The issue is really funny. Like, there's a lot of really good jokes that land in this issue. It almost feels like Batman got inserted into a Guardians of the Galaxy movie. But, whereas you cannot take anything seriously in a Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you can take Batman seriously in this comic, because the comedy relief going on all around him just makes it easier for his grim, gritty attitude to shine. Aaron does a great job of making Batman just shut up and do what he has to do as often as he can, but he also makes a point to have Batman gather data throughout the book. And that's really important because one of the coolest things about Batman comics is that Batman just knows things. He's like a living library of all this information that he uses in his detective work. Once upon a time, when writers actually researched things in the world before writing their comics, you could learn a thing or two from a Batman comic because he would explain the science to you, or he would explain the forensics to you, or he would explain whatever obscure thing they were dealing with to you at length. So what we've got in this issue is Batman gathering as much data as he can get on these aliens so that he can better fight them. He's getting beat up by them on purpose so he can study their fighting styles. And that's good Batman. So my fear of reading a bad Batman story is out the window. I think this Batman is going to be really solid. All the aliens that he deals with are really fun. They're believably formidable, like they can take him out, but they're also really funny. They say funny things and they act kind of human, kind of like the aliens in Guardians of the Galaxy do all the time. But at the end of the day, they're not totally useless like they usually are in those Guardians films. They can actually put down Batman if they want to. And honestly, I was kind of getting a Planet Hulk vibe from this first issue. They're beating up the new guy because that's what they do, but they're slowly starting to realize that maybe there's more than what meets the eye with this guy. I was definitely chuckling to myself like every other page. The jokes are great, the dialogue is great. When there isn't dialogue, it's appropriate and it's great. The one character I don't like is this alien, and it's mostly because of the character design. There is entirely too much going on here. Too many colors, too many designs. She's like Starfire mixed with Poison Ivy, mixed with Nebula. It's just too much. There's too much there. Oh, she's Tamaranian. Yeah, so she's like Starfire. Listen, I don't read much DC, okay? She also seems to be like some kind of insurrectionist, like she's always trying to get Batman to break out of this ship with her. And she hasn't had too much depth yet. She'll probably get better throughout the series, but so far I just don't like looking at her. I think that for a good chunk of the issue, that same overstimulation of character design or just colors in general is there. Because like for this first page that we see, that is a lot of contrasting bright color and is honestly not the best coloring work I've ever seen. And I get the sense that that's just kind of the in-house style that DC has for their comics right now. They just have these really bright colors done with this particular style, and I guess that's okay. But it's one of the many reasons I never pick up their books. Some of the pages are good. Like on these two pages, the colors are much more subdued, so when they are actually red and green characters, it matters that they're red and green, and they don't have to be like neon colors to make that point. As far as the line work goes, I do really like Doug Mahnke's style. It's like a cross between Gary Frank and Lionel Francis Yu and Jason Fabok. DC tends in general to lean more towards that detailed Jim Lee look in their comics, and I like that. So now that there's finally a good story to go with that kind of art, I'm pretty excited. I think that this series is taking place relatively early in Batman's career. Like, he's only been Batman for a year now, and he has this encounter with an alien who's from this other galaxy. So then he's like, well, frick, I don't know how to fight these guys. How am I going to protect Gotham if one of these guys shows up to Gotham again? So he spends a ton of money so he can go flying off into the galaxy and get beat up by some aliens, which is a Pretty solid premise, honestly. I believe in the main villain. He's actually credible. So not only is he entertaining, but he's an actual threat. A bad villain can ruin the comics as well as movies so fast. So I'm glad that we have this credible, memorable villain in this series. I bought issue 2 as well, but I haven't read it yet. I was just too excited to talk about issue 1. I really, really love this training robot that Batman fished out of the trash while he was being a janitor on this ship. He's just really funny. He's great comedy relief, but he never gets annoying. It's a very tasteful, funny droid, and if it was in a Star Wars movie or if it was in a Guardians movie, it would be one of the things people talk about when they left. So overall, I really liked this issue. It has a lot of charm, it does Batman well, and I think it's really setting itself up to be one of the important Batman stories. If you've been watching a bunch of videos and you're on the fence about whether or not you should buy this issue for yourself, you should. You should just go and do it. It's $4. When was the last time you saw an issue 1 for $4? Marvel certainly isn't doing that anymore. I think you'll really like it. It's great. It's worth your money. So I'm going to give issue 1 of Batman Off-World a high 8 out of 10. I'm just not a fan of the coloring. It's too bright for me. Looks a little bit silly, I think. But great writing, great character work, great pencils from Doug Mahnke. Overall, really great. High 8 out of 10. Did you read it? What do you think?